Okay, good. So we're up to Siman Lamed Beis Sif Yud Ches. So we're talking about the various psulim in the writing of the Tefillin, and making sure the parashas are all written correctly. So yesterday we came across a halacha called Chak Teiches, which basically means that you've got to write the letter. You can't have a blob of ink and then just scrape away to form the letter. You've actually got to actively write it. So the Mechaber is going to talk about another problem. I've got the Per Halacha here, the picture book, which hopefully that will make some of the things clearer. So says the Mechaber in the beginning of Yud Ches, Mem Pesucha Shenidbak Pesichosov Anistema. So imagine a letter Mem, right? You've got a letter Mem, which is like a Chof, and then you've got a Vov coming down on the Mem on the other way. So imagine you've got the letter Mem, and then you've got the, but you've put the Vov too close, and it basically looks like a final Mem, right? You can picture it. So here's a little picture, something I prepared earlier. Here's the Mem, but he's done that side bar going down too close, so it looks like a final Mem. Yeah, you see what I mean? So we've got a problem here. So Mem Pesucha Shenidbak Pesichosov Anistema it's attached, it's got too close, and it's closed it up. Ein Moel Ligrer Hadovik V'Lepascha. It doesn't help to scrape away and to remove and to that way open it up. Mishum Dahavik Chak Teiches, like I just explained. It's Chak Teiches. You're not actively writing a mem. You've got a blob of ink, and you're scraping away to let the mem, the letter, emerge. That's not good enough. So matakanta. So what's the matakna? So what can you do to fix it? Sheyigra kol hachartoim v'tishar b'tzuras nun kufufo. You basically have to scrape away. So if you look at this picture over here, you scrape away the whole side that you've got like a nun left, and then you do it again and you do the mem properly. So you scrape it away as if you've got a nun, and then you can do it. Now the reason will be is because that's how you write the mem. You write like a nun, and then you do it properly. It's got a tzura of a letter, and then you're sort of fixing it. So how does that help? Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So, but that's how you normally write the mem. Or a nun. It depends how long the little exactly. So you scrape away fully until you've got like a nun, and then you continue and you drew the mem. That's how you should do it. Okay. So v'achach yichtov mashigarar, and then you write what has been scraped away. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Ayin Shenidbak. Okay, so you've got the mem psucha, and it's and the leg of the mem, or whatever you want to call it, this is the left-hand bar of the mem is too much attached to the main body, and therefore it looks like a final mem. V'impoisel b'zeh negia daka k'chut hasara. If how close does it have to be? If there's a line, a break of a chut hasara, which is a tiny thin line, I mashe kasavnu lekamon in hey v'ayin be'halacha. Okay, v'nistema. So it closes it up. So you've got like a final mem. V'havik mem sosum, and it's like a final mem, a mem sofit, an ender mem, a final mem. Shemekoymei rak b'soif teva, because the final mem has got to be at the end of the words. V'lo be'emtziasa, not in the middle. V'chein kol oisius menatzbach. You know what menatzbach is? Menatzbach, that's the acronym for all the final letters, right? A final mem, a final nun, tzadi, fei, chof. All of those letters, hakafulin ba'alef base, which are doubled up in the aleph base, i.e. you have them regular and you have them final. Koiseves harishonis b'tchilas hateva, the regular of emtziasa. When the regular letters, the pshuta, you write at the beginning or in the middle of a letter. Va'achrona basoif, but you write the final letters when they're on the final at the end of the words. V'imshina apostle. If you write a final nun, a final mem, in the beginning or in the middle of a word, it's no good. It puzzles it. Okay, so we said, the Mechaber said, Ein moil, we said, ligrer hadovik u'lepascha. It doesn't help just to scrape away so that you now fashion a mem. For huadin, and says Mishnah Berurah in Ayin Beis, for huadin shar oisius, and so to any other letter, sheniskalkel tumunosom be'es haksiva, you've messed up when you at the time of writing, or later. And by way of scraping away, you've now let the letter emerge. So he gives examples. Kagoin, dalad shehimshich ragloi v'doime lechof. You've got a dalad, picture a dalad, but you got a bit excitable when you did the leg of the dalad and you drew it down too far. So now it looks like a final chof. Pshuta, v'doime lechof pshuta. V'chol ki hagavna. Ein moya lohem grira, scraping it away doesn't help you. You've got to actively write the letter that you want there, and you haven't. You've suddenly the dalet has just emerged from your scraping away. That's chak toiches. That's not good enough. What should you do? You should scrape away the whole leg, like we said previously in Samaches, and then you fix it up and you do the dalet properly. And so too, if the roof of the letter, you went too far across, too wide, if a person by mistake wrote a hey instead of a dalet, yeah. So imagine you wrote a dalet, and then by mistake you just wrote the foot of you wrote a little blob which became the left-hand foot of the letter hey, and you wanted a dalet. But to Kasavnu Sham, we wrote previously that Tzorech Gamkein Limchik Regel Hadalet. It's not good enough just to rub away the little letter of the hey and make it into a dalet. You've got to rub away the regel of the dalet as well. Aigagai or the roof. Milvad Regel Hahei Loi Mahani Eitzazu Dam Shochas Gagadeles. To just extend the gag of the dalet is not going to help. Because you've still got the tzura of the letter. Lekach lemikri zeh shum tikkun. That's not considered a proper tikkun. Okay, ayin gimel. Kachak toiches. So if you just scratch away where the mem, the vov of the mem has sort of closed up to the main body of the mem, and you just scrape it away, you've got a problem of chak toiches. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Ayin Gimel, to guf ha'ois ein legar mashivat limit. Like we said, sorry if I missed the line. Yeah, the beguf ha'ois ein ois shumaisa. You haven't done anything in the actual body of the letter. Ela goyre hastima. You've just sort of scraped away the closure. Vuadinim tov a kos of ches b'makom shnei zayin. Imagine you've got two zayins, zayin, zoz, and you put a line across the two. That becomes a ches. In fact, how you write the ches is a zayin and then another zayin. So if you wanted to write two zayins and then you wrote a little line across the top and you've got a gag on the two, ein moya ligra haga, you can't just scrape away the gag. Mehai timer, again the same problem, because suddenly the zayin has emerged from your blob of ink, and that's not how you do it. And you've got to scrape away until it's no longer that shape of a letter, and then you can write it.
The first time that you write it,
yeah, so we're going to talk about that. So if there is a normal way of writing it, you go back to that point where it's the normal way of writing it.
So then when you initially wrote the chesed,
so you go back for example, you have to scrape out the second zayin, right? Because then the first zayin, well, you'd have to sort of get rid of. You have to do more than that. You have to get rid of the second zayin and enough of the zayin that when you rewrite the first zayin, it suddenly appears you've written the zayin. But if you just scrape away the roof of the ches, then you've just got suddenly two zayins have emerged. You haven't actually actively written them. So you've got to scrape away the second one, or you've got to fix it up in a way that it doesn't look like a zayin and a zayin. You've got to actively write the two zayins. The cost of ches mokum shnei zayinin ein moyer ligra hagag levad mehai timer. Like we said, that's why I just said you've got to erase them until they no longer look like that letter. V'chein im ta'ov v'osa chof pshuta lemala ke'in dalet. In the chof pshuta, the dalet, just the top of it just goes over a little bit, right? Shelefi das harbe min haposkim hi psula. According to many poskim, that's possible. K'may shivoy lekamon b'simin lamed vav. Gam kein ein moyer ligra hatag lasis agula. It doesn't help to round off the tag to have a chak teiches, same problem. You've got to add a bit of ink, so you've actively written it. And in that particular repair, then writing out of order is not a problem. The belav hochi tzura saleh, because it originally had the tzura, the shape of that letter, and therefore you're okay. So we said over here in our case with the mem psucha, we said matak nosa. So we said the mechaber said yigra kol achartam v'tishak tzuras nun kfufa. You sort of scrape back until you've got a nun, and then you write it. Now says the Mishnah Berurah in Ayin Daled, well, matak nosa. What is the tikkun? Kol shekosav b'siv zeh sheyesh takana. Whenever we say there's a takana over here, hainu koydem shekosav she'os she'achrov. That's before you've written the next letter. Because once you've written the next letter, you've got a problem, because you've got to write tefillin and mezuzahs kasidron, and therefore dilav hochi possible tefillin and mezuzahs to bo'inan bohen kasidron dafka. They've got to be written in order, and therefore fixing something up, when you go back to fix something up, when you've written the next bit, doesn't help you. Unless there are certain situations where kasidron is not a problem. Okay, ayin hey, katsuras nun kufufa. So you scrape back the mem that it looks like a nun. Yeah, can you picture that? You scrape it back so you've got like a nun. Ki kasivas hamem. Now this is your point. Ki kasivas hamem pesucha hu b'shtei ksivas. How do you write a mem? Yeah, this is going back to Sofer school, right? How do you write a mem? It says in the Mishnah Berurah, you start off by writing like a nun, and then you sort of hang a letter vav on the left-hand side to make it into a mem. Whatever was done b'psul, i.e. you push the vav too close to the nun, you scrape that away. This is your point. But the nun was originally written behechsha. That was okay. What was the problem? When you wrote the vav, the hanging vav, you put it too close to the nun. So scrape that away, you back to where you have the nun, and then you finish off and you do the vav properly, so you've written the mem properly. So that's a good tikkun. So therefore, you don't have to scrape away the nun, because that was okay. And so too, any letter, when you write it, when it sort of forms by two other sort of writings, could go in gimel. Yeah, picture the gimel. You've got the gimel, the shape, and then you have the leg of the gimel. And you just have a psul in one part of it. You just have to get rid of the leg of the gimel, and then you just write the gimel. That makes the gimel. So you've written the letter. It's not a problem of chak teiches. Lafuke, to exclude the situation of bereish she'also kamin dalet. You got a reish, and by mistake you did a dalet. So the bepamas nichtav kol b'psul tzorcha kol ligro. Imagine you want to write a reish, but you did the reish wrong and you did it like a dalet. So by scraping away the top right hand side of that dalet, you suddenly created the reish. That's not good enough. That's chak teiches. So the only aids is to scrape away the whole thing and then to rewrite it. Okay, let's carry on.
That's scrape the whole thing, or just enough that it doesn't look like a reish anymore, like
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and turning over the page, V'reish. We're not going to finish off Yud-Ches today, but let's just do a little bit more. V'reish she'oso kamin dalet. So here we go. So that's the exact mistake we just spoke about. V'reish she'oso kamin dalet. You want to do a reish, and by mistake you did it like a dalet. Yesh lahachmir v'loymar d'lo sagi kashigra hayorech levad or hagag levad. It's not good enough. Yesh lahachmir v'loymar. It's not enough to scrape away the yorech levad or hagag levad. Because both were done b'psul. You've got to scrape away both the roof and the side. Okay, and if two letters join together, possible. Letters merging together, they're touching each other, that is a psul. Okay, let's just do the Mishnah Berurah on that, and then we'll leave it here today, and Mishnah will continue next week on the next bit. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Ayin Vav, V'reish. Ayvav or a vav should also come in reish. You did it like a reish. All of these sort of mistakes where you did the initial writing in one stroke, in one letter, in one ksiva. Come in dalet. You did the reish like a dalet. Vuadin begaga shel kaf pshuta she also rochav ishenir kadalet a reish. And so too the roof of a kaf that you did it and it looked like a dalet or a reish. And sadly, says the Mishnah Berurah, some of our sofrim stumble in this. Ayin ches shenigmera. What is this going on? Yeah, now this is going on, letters merging. Yeah, the Mechaber says, if two letters get stuck together, whether it's up before or after you finished it, possible. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Ein Ches, the letter is the right length, imagine he writes the letter Lamed Vov, and a bit of the Vov has attached onto the Lamed, is stuck to the Lamed, and all of those sort of errors. Even if it's a tiny touch, I can see a Lamed and I can see a Vov, but they're touching. Touching letters is a problem. We need clear parchment around each letter. If the letters touching because of ink spills and swellings, the ink you put down on that letter suddenly sort of expanded and caused it. Shekorin glyphosin, I guess that's Yiddish, and the Targum is noizel. At the bottom it sort of spills over. Ad shenirin kedvukin, it looks like the letters are touching. Mikol makom nira she'ein ha'osis noigin kosher. However, even if it looks like it's touching, but so long as they're not actually touching, then it's kosher. If the letters are touching, even though it was the rest of it has been written, even if it happens, the touching happened after it was written. The ink swelled a little bit, and then they touched at a later point. Afilu hochi pasel. That's Eben Rezer Siman Kuf Chaf Hey Sif Tes Zayin Ba'agov Eshmol Ein Shom. Va'ain Lel B'Halacha Soif Sif Tes Zayin Ve'Ninsa Dibuk Bein Ois Leis K'Shesil Sefer Torah L'Kriya Ein L'Kama B'Siman Kuf Mem Gimel B'Mishnah Berurah. If you take a look, interestingly, at 115, very interesting halacha. V'Nisboy Shom. If you're called up for an aliyah tomorrow, right, and you see in the Sefer Torah letters are touching, so how big a problem is that? So here we go. If the letters are touching their entire length, or even if it doesn't change the appearance of the letters, if the letters are touching all the way down the length of it, then you've got to take out a new sefer. But if the touching, the contact, is not through the entire length of the letters, and it doesn't change the tzura of the ois, then so it depends if it's touching on the entire length or just part or something like that. Let's just finish off. Ayin Tes. Oh no, that's the next bit. Okay, so Peseda, we'll leave it there, and Mr. Hashem will carry on and finish off Yud Ches and Mr. Hashem next week. Okay, Peseda.